Okay, random question. It might not lead anywhere. It might do. Who knows? But when you getting ready for a game, which style of socks do you prefer and what color? Like Nike, Adidas, Puma, New Balance, Ralph Lauren?
Definitely. Well, you mean on the way to the game? Or
Well, not on the court, like you're on the court.
All right, so it's definitely Nike.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, for some reason, it was all about the black socks.
Facts.
But now I'm straight white socks. I'm only hooping in white socks. I don't even like the colored socks, or I just be
Stripes,
going I just going straight white Nike socks, and I'm good to go from there. I wear gray socks a lot, but I don't hoop in them. I only hoop in white socks.
You double up on the socks, or you just...
Nah, not no more. That was also something that I did in high school, but just one pair of socks. I don't even do ankle braces or nothing no more. Just white socks, and then I'm definitely, unless I'm in some Jordans, definitely gonna have on some low tops, some Kobe's or some KDs. I'm actually about to get a new pair. About to get a new pair of Black History Month KD 6s.
Yeah.
Used to love those, so I gotta get a new pair of those. But I still got the Kobe's now. Actually, the Nike, shout out to the Nike outlet, Tanger Outlet, Locust Grove, Georgia. Crazy Kobe's down there, Kyrie's. Great deals down there too, for sure.
Right.
No plug, because I don't work for them. I just was down there shopping, so that's not an advertisement. I just think they got some cool shoes.
Definitely. But back to the socks. I know I definitely prefer white if I have white socks. If I have if I got a nice pair around. But I know I used to, before just playing in Nike socks, I would definitely double up. It's something about Nike socks. They'll look thicker than regular socks, especially when they're fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely that. But with that being said, I'm John W.
Fresh X.
And once again, we are the international professional podcasters known as the Hoopers. It's been a while since we done just a regular pod episode. I think the last episode we were shouting out Georgia Tech for making the tournament. Pretty sure they lost in the first round because the best player failed the COVID protocol, so he wasn't going to be able to play in the tournament at all, regardless if they won or not.
Yeah, that was automatic loss right there.
But once again, never know the season's over. But shout out to Georgia Tech for making the tournament. This is the first time since Derek Favors, Gani Lawal.
Sound about right.
Almost way over 10 years. But not important NBA news, but in basketball news, Dr. J has the world in an outrage, an uproar, and everybody's questioning everything now. Have you seen his two teams?
Yeah, I saw the teams.
So, of course, the first team is Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Bill Russell, and Wilt Chamberlain. If Bill Russell was able to play power forward, he'd be the greatest power forward ever. Just throw that out there.
Definitely.
And then his second team was it Magic?
Magic, Jordan, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, and Kareem was the second team.
I want to say first and foremost, I agree with 9 of the 10 players.
Right. I also agree with 9 of the 10 players.
I think we all disagree with that one player.
Right. There's no love shown for Karl Malone at all. So he should not be on anybody's list for anything. He could hoop, though.
Right. So, but of course, everybody is questioning, how did he get these 10? And of course, because of the statement he made about LeBron basically leading the charge for super team movements.
Yeah, the guy asked him why no LeBron on his team, and then he said what he said.
Right. And like I said, of course, a couple weeks ago, he was saying about how the Brooklyn Nets and teams like that are trying to buy championships. But I don't find the list neither one of his 2-5 teams interesting, because in 2014, his first team was his first team then. Because he said, Elgin Baylor was his favorite player to watch growing up.
Exactly. So he's always going to have Elgin Baylor on his list.
Right.
Always.
Then, of course, Jerry West with the presence he set for the game, Oscar Robertson, these would have been players that made him want to play basketball, because in 2014 he did say it was an emotional decision, there was some emotion behind it.
Right.
Which I think if a lot of people get down to the nitty gritty of a lot of their list, it will be some emotion somewhere behind it.
Exactly.
But these are clearly players he watched growing up and he idolized, because I think Jordan and Karl Malone are the only player after 8. Those are the last players drafted as far as those in '83.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think it has nothing to do with him not necessarily. I don't necessarily like to comment about LeBron, leading what he did, kind of. But that was kind of an unnecessary comment. But like,
I mean, he asked him.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
He didn't.
Right.
He didn't bring up LeBron.
Right.
People have to go out their way when someone's not on your list that everyone will have on their list to ask you. Oh, well, why isn't he on here?
No, you're right. So that's my bad.
Yeah,
He was asked the question, so that's true. So he gave an answer. But it's like he went with the guys he knew.
Right.
Like, he seen Jordan, take what he did to the next level. You could say Elgin Baylor was the first version of Dr. J.
Right.
Of course, with Larry and, he played against Larry and Magic in the 80s. Those were battles.
Right.
Karl Malone is Karl Malone. I'm not going to say what he did ever. And then, of course, Kareem is Kareem.
Right.
It was like, how can you be mad at his opinion on his first and second team All NBA, basically?
And when you look at the basis of the list, they didn't ask him who's the 10 best players ever. They're asking him who's your All NBA team. So that's basically asking him who were your favorite players to watch or even compete against. Like, you can take that question and put anything behind it or answer it any type of way. We often start off the show with saying, hey, pick these players in these type of situations, and I've gone with KD in some instances. I've gone with Allen Iverson. I put T-Mac out there, Vince Carter. Like, you can pick different people for different things. And when you asking him who's his All-NBA, I'm not surprised that he did make a choice with players that he watched. And then especially just even, I don't even think this is on his mind, but just even trying to acknowledge those players like Elgin Baylor do get lost now. Or Jerry West, who I often say if his 1-9 record in the NBA Finals was even 4 and whatever, he got 3 rings, he'd be a top 10 player ever to a lot of people. If Elgin Baylor had 2 championships, he would be in the argument for top 10 players. So he picked players, like you said, Elgin Baylor was his favorite player. Jerry West, I mean, he made the game Hollywood. Wilt Chamberlain is Wilt Chamberlain. And those players could play against anybody at any time, anywhere, I mean, honestly. So they asked him who was his All-NBA team, meaning for... and that's how he took the question.
Right.
He put players that he watched as players that he competed against. I mean, when everyone answers these questions nowadays, they're going to answer players that they watched also. But what's the shame in picking Wilt Chamberlain over Tim Duncan? I mean, what's the shame in putting Bill Russell in over Shaq if that's who people want? But the obvious, which nobody wants to allude to, is really just about LeBron. And, they gonna make it seem like everyone else is just bringing up LeBron, but that's what it's about. Because immediately the man asked him, "Well, why isn't LeBron on your team?" Because this is my team.
Right, that should just be the answer for now. This is my team, and it comes on the. I'm going back to it real quick, but I kind of got a correlation. It comes back on the heels of Stephen A. putting out his five best players to never win a championship: Dan Marino, Barry Bonds, Carmelo, Iverson. Did I name all 5?
I think I'm Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley, right. And it's like the overreaction to it and people just naming players. I seen somebody name Randy Moss. How do you put Randy Moss over Dan Marino as a player to not win a championship? Because he clearly just took players from random sports. Of course, he's going to have more basketball players.
Right.
Of course, Chris Paul being thrown out there. It's like he's not putting nobody except Kobe over Iverson. R.I.P. to Kobe, because Iverson is like, that's not, I'm not gonna say it's his best friend, but as far as the NBA world go and the NBA, how the NBA is, that was his guy in Philly. Like, he's not putting anybody over Iverson.
Right. So, and either way, Chris Paul's career don't stack up to Allen Iverson's career. I said it right here live. And that's how he could feel about it. Like, you could answer these questions any type of way. Especially when you're going with your personal choices. Those are people that he personally watched. And then you look at the numbers that they have. Like, how can you deny that any of them can't be on the list? Like, you want Chris Paul on the list over Allen Iverson? Iverson went to a finals. At least Chris Paul never even made it. So, I mean, if you want to choose Chris Paul, that's also fine, too. Chris Paul's top 5 in assists all time now. Right. So, it's fine to have him on that list. But I think the bigger problem, back to the Dr. J, to kind of go into this, everyone's upset, obviously, with the super team thing. And people, I guess because you want to give, like, LeBron deserves credit for, player mobility. He did put it in the forefront, even though players signed. Shaq was one of the first people that went somewhere else. But then, of course, he got strapped with they changed the rules of the
unrestricted free agency.
Yeah, unrestricted free agency and things like that. So that just helped restrict it. So other than that, players never really went. Not too many big name players went anywhere. So honestly, it typically was no reason for that player to go anywhere. If we want to, I'm not even gonna dive deep into that for real.
I think that is a part a lot of people miss, because I know it's like the management versus the player movement, but a lot of those those front offices made sure the players had good players around them. To your point,
they had solid role players, because people. The thing that gets annoying the most, and I'll get back to my point about the movements, is like when people try to bring up some of the Cleveland teams that LeBron was on. Obviously, they didn't have a second superstar player. They did have they had one superstar, and then they had an all-star, because that's how the league was built at the time, other than the Pistons or whatever. But people just put up these players, and I've gotten to a point now, because we've been seeing it for years. It gets kind of annoying because there's no context to it, because you don't know the role that Mo Williams played on that team as an all-star player. Did he not show up in the playoffs sometimes? Obviously, he didn't. Or how Daniel Gibson lifted them into the finals. He played a big role for that team.
Big role in that.
Drew Gooden was a starter for years on that team, and people throw him out there like, oh, he played with Drew Gooden. Zydrunas Ilgauskas was a former all-star and still a solid center, and they did what they team. They won 60+ games multiple times because of their defense. And in the playoffs, that's when your star players step up the most. And what LeBron wanted to do didn't really work in those situations, because he did want to be a player that moved the ball around. But to my point, if I pulled up the Spurs teams that won the championship, other than Tim Duncan, and I give you David Robinson, because we gonna know David Robinson.
That first team,
yeah, the first team. You're gonna be like, if you show them the people, they gonna be like Mario, Ellie, Sean, Elliott, Avery Johnson. Who are these people? That's how people will treat them, because they aren't household names. But they were role players. They played their role. Sean Elliott could shoot the ball. Avery Johnson was a floor general. Mario Ellie did everything. They were important to the team. And then obviously you get to the later years. Yeah, you got Manu and you got Tony Parker. But then you look on the team, it's like Kevin Willis's last year.
Samaki Walker.
Samaki Walker. What's the guy that I can't
Matt
think
Bonner.
I don't even think of Bonner. Bonner was a good hoop too, but was it? Did they have Nesterovic?
Yeah,
Rasho.
No, they didn't have Rasho.
No, they didn't have him. They didn't have him. But either way, it was.
I get your point.
Yeah, right. It's players that you wouldn't know, but Tim Duncan,
he elevated
his game. So, that was just the point of LeBron. So back to the thing with him moving. I don't know why people try to deny that LeBron started this new era of super teams. Like it is what it is at this point. That's what we're in. If you want to give him credit for the player mobility, it's just like people want to act like it started when KD went to the Warriors. No, that just was a worse version of it. But
the best version of it.
But yeah, I mean, really. But it directly started with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh going to Miami. Right. And even before that, they were trying to team up, period. I mean, of course, we know about the potential with Melo. That was really nothing. But even before that, Wade and Bosh was already planning to team up, and then LeBron and things like that.
They was going to run it like twos.
Right. But the whole thing that people got issues with, because Dr. J said, about the super teams, and they was like, they didn't play on super teams. And Dr. J was on the super team. He played with Moses Malone. It was Dr. J, Moses Malone, and young Barkley. So I don't consider Barkley. So really, their best two players were Dr. J and Moses Malone. They had a lot of
championship team Barkley wouldn't have been on the championship team, but
no, he wouldn't have.
But
they would have had, after their stars was Moses Malone and Dr. J. Then you would have got Daryl Dawkins. You would have had Mo Cheeks. You would have had I'm missing his name. I can't think of the team. That's one of my favorite teams at that. But he was on a team with another star player, but Dr. J went at these other teams. But I guess people issue what they want to know with nowadays is they act like super teams went around because of how the teams were built or whatever. And it's just a difference with players. And even though the teams were built in a certain type of way, when Magic played with Kareem and Worthy, Kareem and Worthy were never the best player in the league at that point. They weren't at that point. I don't think James Worthy was ever the best player in the NBA.
Not even
he has an MVP. He had an MVP season. He did for sure, and that's no disrespect.
Oh no, I wasn't saying it like that. Like I would just say, you know, even with the MVP, nobody had James Worthy. People wouldn't even had James Worthy as a top. He would have been a top wing, but nobody was saying James Worthy is the best wing. When you had Jordan, Bird, Clyde, like.
But developing and becoming a dominant team like that is just not the same as at the end of the day calling your two homies and saying y'all gonna play together. It's cool if that's what y'all want to do,
right?
But I just think it's not the same. Either way, if people do it, they do it. But I just think people should stop acting like LeBron didn't start like you can't give him praise for the mobility and then try to look around the fact that he started a super team and then he tried to do it again in Cleveland because Kyrie was an all-star franchise player. Kevin Love was an all-star, and then not so much super team with the Lakers, but he definitely didn't want to keep the same players that were on the roster. I mean, they got Anthony Davis, obviously. So,
yeah, definitely. I just think it's how do you prefer your super team built? Do you prefer management or player movement? And it seems that, of course, the younger generation prefers player movement because they think players should have the right to do what they career, which they do. And then, of course, the older generation prefers if the front office doing it. So it just depends on how, which one you prefer.
The only thing I don't like, I don't care how they do it, honestly. Obviously, it's going to be looked at different when you get drafted because Steven, shout out to Steven from Breaking the Game, Off the Ball Network family. He has a question about a super team. Can it only be when players sign, or can you draft a super team? And I was like, I don't think you necessarily can unless you're drafting.
That was to your point. Me and you were talking about the 7-3-9 Golden State Warriors team.
Right? Yeah. Unless you're drafting two players that can carry a team, like they can lead them to the finals. At the end of the day, they lost, but KD led the Thunder to the finals. Steph led the Warriors to the finals twice. Won one, lost one before KD came, and then you draft an all-star player within Clay.
Right.
So I think that's a tough question. But so my point, the only thing I don't like, because I don't care if players want to play together. Like I like that KD wanted to play with Kyrie Irving. I like that Kawhi wanted to play with Paul George. I have a problem when you're saying you're the best player in the league and you want to play with the other player that people saying the best player in the league, because I think at some point I would rather see y'all try to compete, but that's just a personal thing. I don't have a problem with it necessarily, but like remember when KD was coming free agent, they was like, oh, he's gonna sign with LeBron. Like why does KD need to play with LeBron?
We just had a problem with him signing with Steph.
Right, and not even that. I'm just saying, even at the end of the day, the game done became so much just about the money and stuff that obviously people are competing, but that is just competitiveness at the end of the day. I get if it's like a family thing or y'all played together previously, but if I'm KD, if I'm looked at as the second best player in the league or the best player in the league, I'm LeBron, looked at as the second best player in the league, best player in the league, I don't necessarily want to play on your team. We can play all-star games, we can play pickup, we can work out together,
charity game,
right? But when it's time to play for the NBA Finals, I would rather play against you than play on your team. That's why I always said with why I didn't think KD would sign with him. My opinion for what he thought about Steph was that Steph wasn't his competition, so that's why he didn't mind playing with Steph, because the only player he thought he was competing with was LeBron.
Right.
So that's what I thought at the time.
Right. Even with Steph at the time, in my opinion, would have been a top 3 player. He still would have been a top 3 player. He still wasn't looking at. Even even with them putting him out the year before, he still wasn't looking at Steph as his direct competition. You there, but you not you are not class, but you not with us.
And probably because of you looking at size and you looking at matchups, I'm not really about to be guarding you for real. Yeah. So I think that plays a role in it too, or whatever. So I just think that played a part. And I prefer I wouldn't have liked to see Michael Jordan play with Magic. I like the fact that Jordan and Magic was like, no, I want to play against you. Magic was like, you gonna have to beat me to say you the best player in the league.
After 2 championships at that, MVPs, right? And that was just on the Olympic team at that.
But so much stuff about the game nowadays is just about the money and the antics and highlights, and that's where he even gets lost in the regular season. Don't matter, and the obviously the regular season has always been long. Pause. It's always been a lot of games. It's been 82 games for over 80 years now. Not 80 years, but you know what I'm saying. But all the great players always found a way to get themselves up from the game. I just heard KD on his podcast with Draymond say, that fourth game or the fifth game in 7 nights, that fourth game is always hard. And then he's like, that became his favorite game because that's when I know I'm the best, because you got to get yourself up for that game to really play. Or you always hear the legends of the mind games, Jordan or even Kobe, RP Kobe would play to get themselves up for the game. But nowadays, people just like, I don't care, we just got to get to the playoffs or whatever. Let's just make it to the playoffs. But they cared about playing in the regular season, and that how they won. I mean, not in Kobe's instance because he didn't win but won, but that is how you win MVPs in my opinion too, because you're getting up for the regular season because you're trying to be the best you could be every night, and it's not just about the playoffs. But I want to drop 50 on these fools tonight. Like I'm playing who tonight? They beat us how many times last year? Cool, let's sweep them this year. Like we only play this West Coast team twice. We don't want them to beat us at all. Right. Let's only lose 2 games at home this season. Look, teams probably have those goals that they don't put out there, but I just feel like that's just not the goal no more. Nobody cares about going undefeated at home. We just want to make the playoffs. None of this matters until the finals. But none of it matters to the finals, and that's why them teams get bounced, because they're not working on what they need to work on during this regular season, or whatever.
I'm definitely one of those people who go into the regular season matters, because it just does. It sets from training camp, from the first day of training camp to the last day of to the last game of the regular season. Right. It does set a presence and a mindset, and even with Golden State having Steph and KD on one team together, they weren't shooting for third place. Place. Right. Like, they were going for a top 2, like not even necessarily top 2. Like, we gonna be the best team year in and year out, not because of the talent on the roster, but because we gonna go out and win 65 plus games as well.
Exactly. And I think that's how that Miami Heat team was, especially the second year. Like, let's go out and win 60 games. We don't win 10 in a row. Let's win 20 in a row. I think that Heat team, the Heatles, was really like that. That first championship, they just ain't want to fail again. They was playing good basketball, but they wanted to win. But the Heatles, they said, this is our team.
Into the Heatles.
Yeah, this is our team that's gonna go down in the history books. This is when they say the top 5 teams, top 10 teams, they gonna mention our team or whatever. Yeah. And I think the Heatles was like that too.
No, I definitely agree with that.
And that was the last year where LeBron, he wanted MVP. He wanted to win Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't just play. He moved around. He did a lot. So
you bring that up a lot.
Yeah.
You brought us some. You brought us some stuff that I was going. I'm glad you brought up, because it was going to lead to the next thing I wanted to talk about. Of course, you mentioned about a team getting swept and not wanting to get swept the next year by the team. Right. Just little stuff like that. And I know you remember this, because I remember very well. But those 2 years, Golden State won the championships. Not won the championship, but was the best team in the West 2015-16 before KD got there. I know KD didn't play a lot that 15 season because he was coming off the foot injury. Yeah, but he was in and out. But I always found those Golden State OKC games to be quite peculiar, kind of strange, because I don't know if you remember, but I know you remember most games. But OKC, even though they lost every game those 2 years against Golden State, they led at halftime every game.
Right, yeah, because they was a team that had the most talent to match with them, and just the factor of having KD, which was the position where they could be, because you got Clay and Steph in the backcourt, and Harrison Barnes is a respectable player, but at the end of the day, if your matchup is Harrison Barnes versus Kevin Durant, I
think Golden State was thinking the same thing as well. Right. But anyway, so it got down to I know a lot of people say that OKC choked that conference final. More people say KD, some people say Russ. I say the whole team did, and I know when they got up 3-1, a lot of people kind of thought the series was over. But even looking at those games, I know outside, just physically, Golden State could match up with them. And Golden State, even said that they were like, OKC was just too big and too tall for them.
Well, yeah, Andre Iguodala said that was the best team they played that year.
He did say that. And I can say, I know for a fact, and I'm telling the truth, that even with Golden State down 3-1, because of how those games in the regular season was played, I never thought Golden State was going to lose that conference finals that year against them. And not, like I say, and OKC, I know a lot of people do say OKC was the better team, and, if KD stays in OKC, they run it back year in and year out. I think that's true because Harrison. I think eventually they would have got him because of the Harrison Barnes matchup. Like, there's no way you keep compensating for that. I don't care who else is on your team. They was gonna eventually figure out how to slow down Clay. Draymond was gonna become a little more ineffective every year because having to guard Steven Adams and Ibaka was just gonna get tiring for him, especially after Bogut was on his last leg. But of course, we all know, Game 6, Clay, even though Steph had 30 that game as well, and Golden State wins in 7. How do you think OKC future turns out if they even just win in 6?
Right. I actually picked OKC that year because that was the year they led the league and they had the most fourth quarter, gave up the most losses out of the league once in the fourth quarter or whatever. And I always say it was just because that was KD's first full year back playing with the new Russell, who done led the league in scoring now. So they were trying to figure a lot of different stuff out then or whatever. So I figured that they were going to close out the series. And you could tell when they got up 3-1, KD, and he said on Newman's Crazy that he was playing out of his game because trying to just finish him and get it over with. He shot. I remember, I think it was Game 5. It probably been Game 6, one of those games. But I remember he had 16 shots in the first half. And this is a dude that'll shoot 16, even in OKC. I mean, he might have averaged about 20 shots a game then, 19 shots a game then. But he'll shoot 19 for the game, which still isn't even a lot for him. He should be taking more. But he had 16 in the first half or whatever. In the first quarter, I believe. If not for sure the first half. But I believe he took about 15 shots that first quarter or whatever. And not even just open shots, just trying to force it. That's the most forcing I've ever seen him do in the game. And of course, because you could say who choked it away. When KD's forcing things, Russell, no disrespect to him, but he's not going to make it calmer or whatever. He's not going to make it easier or let's get in this. He's pressing himself too. So I think that team, to answer your question, they were always going to be in position because they had KD and then Russ. I mean, when they were healthy, they were in the conference finals.
True.
I mean, they made 4 of them. They lived there. They went to 1 finals. Then Trey James. Then I believe Ibaka got hurt. Russ got hurt. Then KD got hurt. Then Ibaka got hurt. And, then everyone started moving on. But I think their team, at the end of the day, what KD said about why he wanted to play for Golden State, I believe it was truthful because when you look at OKC, they didn't have shooters. And they did go through stretches where if Russ and KD couldn't get a shot, let's just say they're off. I mean, motherfuckers miss sometimes. Excuse me. Sometimes you have an off game. It happens. I've been averaging 40 the whole playoffs. We both averaging 30. I'm sorry, I'm 3 for 17 today. That for people to think that people don't have these bad games is just crazy. But let's just say they're off. They used to go through so many stretches where they couldn't score, and I mean I don't know how they would have addressed that, honestly. And that was even an issue, in the finals with the team that they would go through those stretches. And because Scott Brooks the coach when they played Golden State? Bill Donovan was there by then, so new coach obviously. But just speaking of Scott Brooks, his offense used to be so stagnant, especially, and that's easy to defend in the playoffs. They were easy to defend in the playoffs because their offense wasn't that eccentric. They didn't do a lot of different things, a lot of ball movement. So no ball movement for real. Not even a lot of pick and rolls. I don't really know what they were doing out there. No shooters.
Giving the ball to your best 2 players and watch them go to work.
Basically, and it seems like that was Presti's style of building the team. I mean, even if you still look at OKC now, they don't got shooters on their team now, and that's what the league is doing, is shooting. So he still is building, around players that can go one-on-one a little more. I mean, even with Chris Paul and Shea last year, he tried to go Russell, Paul George. So that seems like that's his style of building a team. So I guess that's just the main thing, is what do they do in those instances? How do you continue to build and add stuff to complement them? But if KD stays, maybe he's vocal about this is how I want to play, or this is what I think we should do to make the game easier. Because that's just the main thing. At the end of the day, everyone plays with players that's going to make it easier for them.
Who doesn't, right?
Right, yeah. Like you add, Kobe plays with Derek Fisher, Ron Artest, Lamar Odom, Paul Gasol, players that play their role to do what you need to do to win a championship. Derek Fisher's defending in the open three. Obviously, you can throw the ball to Gasol and he can get a bucket or make a pass. Odom, it's power, point forward. I mean, literally back then he's running the offense. He's bringing the ball up the court or whatever. You have Trevor Ariza, Ron Artest gonna defend, hit open threes, and then you still got your other specialty players like Jordan Farmar, Sasha Vujacic, who people can think what they want in their games, but they play their roles and win championships. So everybody need those players. And I don't think OKC had them, and it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't seem like it's like Sam Presti's a good GM. He knows how to pick the talent, but I don't think he knows how to surround the talent around what the talent needs.
Right, because even with that team, Andre Roberson was a defender. He was supposed to be a shooter, but he was more defender. He wouldn't,
he didn't even want to shoot the ball.
Serge Ibaka, the more defender,
and then they traded
catch and shoot player. Steven Adams, at that point in his career, you're not throwing him the ball
at all,
anywhere, not even off a pick and roll.
They would have had Katner because KD did play with him for 1 year.
Yeah,
so
they had Katner. You're right.
Katner.
You're right. But even still, you have to get him the ball down there.
Exactly.
Even though he was the one of the better rebounders that year. Double.
Right.
I think he led the league in doubles off the bench that year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They didn't have, and honestly, him and Serge would have probably been their best catch and shoot players that year.
That's probably what's lacking from Sam Presti. Like now I'm thinking about it, he is good at selecting. All right, this is a guy make the trade for Shea because I believe Shea can be an all-star type player. I draft KD, draft Westbrook, you draft Harden, draft Ibaka. All right, I'm gonna trade Harden. Let me get Steven Adams in that trade or whatever. So he's been able to find players, but then when you look at the rest of the players on the team, yeah, Andre Roberson was a solid defensive player, but he literally used to be scared to shoot the ball. He went they used to literally yell at him, shoot the ball. Come on. That's been, so it'd be interesting to see what he does with this team with all the picks that he got and stuff like that.
All right. I know Iverson is your favorite player ever. He doesn't play anymore, so he can't be your current favorite. Well, he could be, but who's your favorite player to watch right now? I'm pretty sure I ask you this every couple of months, but just right now, who's your favorite player to watch?
Other than Kevin Durant, because I definitely like to watch Kevin Durant. I definitely like to watch Ja Morant play.
Mid-major big dog.
Right, Ja Morant, how he gets up and down the court, the passes that he makes, kind of how he leads that Memphis team. Definitely like to watch Ja Morant play. It's easy to just say Kevin Durant or Dame, so I'm not even mentioning them, and then Steph. I'm just trying to think of some other players that if I see that they're on, I'm going to watch them play. I said Ja Morant. I actually really like to watch De'Aaron Fox. I don't catch too many Sacramento games, but if when I can, if I see them on, I'm definitely tuning in to De'Aaron. De'Aaron gets up and down the court so fast but so smooth. I hope Sacramento, they figure it out and get some talent around him. I think there's some talent there, but they're still missing some things, obviously. But if not, I like De'Aaron Fox on the Lakers. That'd be cool. And I ain't even a Lakers fan. It just seemed like he'd be a good Laker. So I just think he'd be a good Laker. Don't pay Dennis Schroeder. Go get De'Aaron Fox. That's what I think.
Dennis Schroeder does want to get paid. He want to get paid like a championship level point guard.
Hey, if you want to pay somebody, go get De'Aaron Fox. I think. Hey,
well, he's already been signed back to Sacramento though.
Hey, there you go. You're already on the contract. You good to go too. So hey, that's even better. Trying to think, I'm gonna add one more. I definitely like to watch Joel Embiid play because it's cool to see him when he gets the ball.
And
because
the playoff spot today,
right? Because last night. And he says that he feels like he Kevin Durant out there, and I believe him because offensively when he gets the ball, you never really know what he's gonna do. Honestly, he'll face up and he might dribble a little bit and then pull up, or he'll face up and then spin real quick and get you in the post and spin off and dunk on you. So Joel Embiid is definitely
mid-range jump shot.
an exciting player to watch, for sure.
I'm not gonna lie.
One more. Kyrie Irving is fun to watch. Kyrie's easy.
Shout out Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, I think I've appreciated watching Kyrie. This is what I feel about Kyrie this year.
Because I'm gonna say what I gotta say about
because
Kyrie. Go ahead.
Kyrie, I used to didn't like the. Obviously, he always was a good.
He is who he is.
But I used to think he used to over dribble a lot.
I still think he does.
I don't think he gets to his spots a lot better now. And it's so entertaining to watch that he doesn't, like, every once in a while, he's an entertainer. So he does get in his bag every once in a while. I'm not saying he doesn't over dribble anymore, but Kyrie has definitely done a great job of just being able to get his move and get to his spot and raise up and like he raises up like he's 6'8", like so. He's definitely been in his Kobe bag since Kobe has passed. R.I.P.
Kobe.
But I definitely appreciate how he gets to his spots and just raises up. It's like and it's not just the dribbling, the pivots nowadays, the post moves and everything. So,
killing it in the post now.
Yeah.
Seen the hook shot he shot? Like,
right, yeah.
He used to be shooting hook shots.
The left hand shot that he take.
Over Chris Paul, that was crazy.
Yeah, Kyrie is definitely a fun player to watch.
But to your point, of course, I dropped the Kyrie appreciation post on Twitter yesterday. I don't want to talk about him as a basketball player, but Kyrie Irving does play. I think Kyrie Irving is in that class of players that play basketball how it's supposed to be played, even though, like I say, sometimes he does over dribble. Yeah. But if you're saying, okay, this is a one-on-one player, he knows how to create on his own, he makes for himself, Kyrie will be at the top of that. Like if you say, oh, this, Kevin Durant, who I think you've said it a couple times, maybe not on the show, but I know you said it in real life, that Kevin Durant is what the evolution of basketball is supposed to be. He can dribble, shoot, he's tall, he's fast, he's strong for his size. Like he's what basketball is supposed to be. Steph Curry, as far as being a selfless player and the way he shoots the ball off the dribble, off the catch, off the move. Like LeBron, his all around game and his IQ, like they're in that class of these are the best of the best at what they do. And if you imagine a player, you could create a player, you would create them like that. And to your point about Kyrie, not only does he get to his spot for his own shots quicker, but how he sets up his teammates off the dribble as well. Like Joe Harris is a big benefactor off of some of those Kyrie crossovers to, spot up jump shots, which is why he gets to shoot almost 50% from the three this year. And even the way, I think it doesn't get mentioned enough, but I think even the way, because how, it's seen in Boston, but Kyrie is even, I think he's even a good leader, especially for the younger players on Brooklyn.
Right.
Like, Tyler Johnson, Bruce Brown, these players who, in any other situation, they had more players off the bench, they would be throwaway players, honestly.
Right.
But he makes sure those players stay involved when he's on the court with them, when he's off the court on the bench. He's one of those players. He also coaches his players up, even though it doesn't get mentioned because people have a, perceived notion about Kyrie and who he is or who he is as a player.
Right.
But Kyrie is definitely one of the better players in the league. I know you don't agree that he's the most skilled player in the league. Got Kevin Durant as that.
Right,
but
no.
Kyrie Irving is definitely one of the more skilled players in the league. I would go top 5 in my personal opinion. I'm not going to give a list right now because I ain't got time for people on the internet to be mad at me either. But Kyrie is definitely a top 5 skilled player in the league.
Yeah, top 5 is easy. Yeah, definitely. Because you got to go with everything in there. His footwork, his ball handling, the pivots. I think he's a much better playmaker than he gets credit for, especially this year. Maybe it's some effect of being around Steve Nash. Just because it's some people that average more assists that I don't think are as good as playmakers as he is. So Kyrie's having a great season. I think he's averaging 27 and like 6 this year.
Yeah, I'm
5, something like that.
Right on almost 90, 50, 40.
Right, so. Great, 26 and 6.5, 6.4 assists, 27,
5 rebounds,
26.9. Dang, so Kyrie's basically averaging 27, 5, and 6. That's crazy.
90, 50, 40. Him and Steph are probably the only guards that's doing that.
Yeah, easily, for sure.
But shout out to Kyrie again. Him and his ball, him and his dribbling wizardry. Where do you think Kyrie is gonna go down as a all-time point guard? Cause I still got him as a point guard. I don't care.
Yeah, I think he gonna just now, since he is playing. He's back at the points and James is hurt, but more time at the 2. They're just gonna look at him more so as a guard. I think the key is how many more championships he could win, though.
That's fair.
But he's definitely gonna go down as one of the best players, easily Hall of Famer. And they got a chance to win one, maybe 2 championships. So he already got one, and one of the biggest shot in the NBA Finals history to some people.
Yeah. So a couple more solo accolades on there. You know, he can go down in the top 10 maybe.
Right.
But other than that,
top 10 point guards possibly,
yeah. Oh, my bad. Yeah, top 10 point guards. Top 10 point guards.
Possibly.
Not players, but just point guards.
When you think about his career, he's gonna get up there with his numbers are gonna get high. Mm-hmm. He's gonna be on some top 10 lists. Mm-hmm. I mean, it depends on how long he want to play. Because Kyrie, the type he could win the next 2 championships, then retire, which would be cool. That's what he want to do.
Right.
But so it depends on how long he want to play. Which I mean, that's not gonna stop him from going to the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying, as far as how far up those lists he goes. He
want to be.
Yeah, right. That's up to him.
Yeah, definitely. Other than that, yeah.
No, that was I ain't.
Oh, cool. But my bad. Before we get out of here, I know we're a basketball show, but how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers? The news about Aaron Rodgers saying he's done with the Green Bay Packers organization.
I'm not surprised. I mean, like you say, we're not a football show. I didn't even watch a single ounce of NFL football last year. Not even the Super Bowl. Yeah, I didn't watch none. Not even on purpose either. I just kind of didn't watch it. But I do know that the Packers drafted a quarterback in the first round last year after going years of not drafting a single skill player for him. And I know, he's had some respectable players around him, but at the end of the day, the Packers have never fully built that team up to be around. They were always lacking at some area, and he kind of just carried them. So I'm not surprised though that he's wanting to go, because he at the end of the day, he knows he's getting older. He knows that he's only been to one Super Bowl. He knows that he feels like he's one of the best quarterbacks ever, and he wants to. It ain't even just about winning the Super Bowl. You just want to go. Like, all right, I lost. That's even like what KD said about going. He said he didn't even care about winning the championship. It's just knowing I got a chance at a run, and that's all what people really care about. Honestly, like. I know Jerry West probably wishes he won, not wishes, but yeah, he probably wants to have won more than one championship. But to go to 10 finals, to just have a chance to be there, I think is what matters the most to a lot of players across sports. So.
I seen somebody get a joke off on Twitter about Aaron Rodgers. They say, if he ain't talking to his mom, what make the Packers think he finna talk to them?
That's a fact, though.
I see somebody say, how you go? I see somebody say, how you gonna hate the most famous person in your family?
That's crazy. But that's a fact also.
But other than that, you got anything else for him on this episode?
No, that's it. Other than that, shout out to all the listeners out there as always. You can catch us outside of the pod, because we're everywhere podcasts are available. And then we're going to have more episodes that we cranking out for everybody. So it's always cool to get back to the Hoopers Pod. But for other platforms, shout out to the Off the Ball Network. You can catch us every Friday morning on the Off the Ball Network Facebook page and on our YouTube page. Go ahead and like and subscribe to you. Can you like the YouTube page? I don't know, but you can definitely subscribe to it. So go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube page. Search the Hoopers Pod. Every Friday, 9 a.m. Catch us for the Hoopers Morning Run.
Also on our Twitter page.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely on the Twitter. Yep, it's on the Twitter page too. You can watch live there. Go ahead and catch up with weeks worth of what's going on in the NBA. Checking out the weekend Hoopers Morning Run at 9 a.m. Off the Ball Network. Shout out to everybody over there. Shout out to the President Chris LeBron, Vice President Mo, Vice President Jeff. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Jelani too. But then you can catch us every Monday and Friday also at 8 p.m. on not Off the Ball Network, excuse me, but on Nothing But Net Radio. That's what you gotta do. Go in your app store, Google Play, wherever you get your apps from. Download the Dash Radio app. Don't just look at it. Like the Nothing But Net channel, because there's other dope shows on there also. But every Monday and Friday, we're on the Nothing But Net radio station at 8 p.m. giving you the game, wrapping up the weekend. Maybe looking forward to the week. Just all NBA news. But of course, you can find us anywhere podcasts are available: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. We on iHeartRadio. We're on Pandora. Just search the Hoopers Pod. We're everywhere. Literally, you can go to Google and type in the Hoopers Pod.
All right. And shout out to the Phoenix Suns for clinching a playoff spot for the first time since 2006.
Nah, that's
No,
bad
not
after that.
like 2011. So
Yeah,
right now,
sound right.
so right now, 4 teams have clinched. I know we finna get out of here. I just want to say this real quick, but 4 teams have clinched so far. The
Yeah.
Utah Jazz, who beat down the Kings last night. No
By
Donovan Mitchell.
49.
Worst loss in Kings history. The Phoenix Sun, the Brooklyn Nets, and your Philadelphia 76ers have all clinched playoff spots.
That's dope.
But you know the names. I'm John W.
It's Fresh X.
And this was the Hoopers Pod.
Later, players.